The iPhone 13 has some secret changes that Apple doesn't want you to know about. Since the event wrapped up, I have spent hours poring over spec sheets and articles and going down random Twitter rabbit holes of conspiracy theories to figure out what Apple didn't talk about at their event, or if they did talk about it, they're sort of really quickly glossed over it, hoping you really wouldn't remember it. So in this video, let me break down 15 things that you need to know about with the iPhone 13, the iPhone 13 Pro, as well as other Apple products. I've got some good news, and I've also got some bad news. Let me explain. And a big thanks to Luminar Neo for sponsoring this video. Now, whether or not you think the iPhone 13 is a must-have upgrade or not, I think we can all agree that at least it's nice to see some new Apple products finally making their debut. That redesigned iPad mini especially is looking fantastic, and the event was pretty cool. But at the same time, there were some interesting parts of that event that felt a little rushed and cobbled together. There are some interesting conspiracy theories on what Apple did and didn't do at that event, which I'll come back to in a second because I don't think they're all that crazy. But first, let me break down some things about the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro that Apple didn't really touch on at all during the event that you really need to know about before you get one of these new phones. Now, last year when Apple debuted the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, you might remember that there was some conflicting opinions about this phone because there were different features based off of the Pro and iPhone you got. The 12 Pro was a really great phone, but if you wanted the best camera features like the larger sensor and the better telephoto optical range and the sensor shift stabilization technology, you had to go with the 12 Pro Max. If you wanted the best of iPhones, you had to go with the biggest iPhone screen to get all of those features. With the iPhone 13 Pro series, that is no longer the case. The iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max are essentially identical. They have the exact same ProMotion display, they have the exact same camera setup. There is no difference here in capability or features between the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max. So no longer do you have to get the biggest and one of the most expensive iPhones to have the best features. Really, the only difference between the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max are the inherent size differences, so a larger screen and a larger battery, because the Pro Max, of course, is physically bigger than the 6.1-inch 13 Pro. But something worth pointing out though is that even if you go for the $999 13 Pro, you are missing out on one important feature, and that is full support for ProRes video. Now, this is not a limitation of the 13 Pro or 13 Pro Max, but it's really a limitation of the storage size, and Apple is in fact capping ProRes video capture to 1080p on the 128GB 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, presumably because those file sizes are just going to be really, really big when you record higher quality, less compressed video in ProRes. If you do want to take advantage of 4K ProRes, you're going to have to jump up to at least a 256GB iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max to get the full features. In addition to those limitations, cinematic video mode is also limited across all four models of the iPhone 13. Apple is capping cinematic video mode at 1080p, so there is no 4K cinematic video mode on the Pro or Pro Max. It's just the same across the board. It's capped at 1080p, just so you know. And speaking of that cinematic mode, there has been a lot of different opinions on the usefulness of this mode. Some people think it's really cool. Some people think it's a little limiting and it doesn't really look all that great. But regardless of what you think about it, it is really cool, and it's kind of contrary to the rumors that it's coming to all of the iPhone 13 models. This was supposed to be only a feature on the 13 Pro and Pro Max, but kudos to Apple, it is on the 13 and 13 mini as well. What I do find so odd about this though is that this seems to be really a combination of the A15 processor and other software features that make this cinematic video mode happen. It doesn't look like it's using any additional hardware. Particularly, the LiDAR sensor on the 13 Pro and Pro Max seems like it would be a vital part of making the depth effect more prominent, that it would be able to use the extra information from that LiDAR sensor, which is basically capturing depth, to make this even better. But according to what I can see on Apple's website, it looks like LiDAR is only being used for a handful of features, and cinematic video mode is not one of the features listed. So it doesn't seem, as of right now, that LiDAR is being used to make this mode better on the Pros than it would be on the 13 or 13 mini, which is, I guess, a good thing that it's the same across the board, but also a little weird. Why is that LiDAR sensor there and not being really utilized to its full advantage as of right now? And again, I could be wrong on this. Apple could, of course, push out a software update that takes better advantage of this LiDAR sensor, but I did think it was worth noting that even though LiDAR has now been around for 2 years now, that it's really still limited to just a handful of things and not really being used for its full potential. Another difference between the 13 Pro and regular 13 series, and something we have not seen before, is that although the A15 Bionic is the same processor in all 4 iPhones, it is slightly tweaked on the Pro-end iPhones as opposed to the regular 13 and 13 mini. On those phones, you're getting a 4-core GPU as opposed to the 5-core GPU on the 13 Pro-end models. Now, in all reality, are you really gonna notice this difference? Probably not, unless you're really into graphic-intensive games or really high-end processes that would really take advantage of that extra GPU core. You're probably not gonna notice much of a difference. I don't think it's really one reason to sway you up to the Pro-end iPhones over the 13 or 13 mini, but just something Apple really hasn't done before, something we haven't seen before, and something you should note if you want to kind of compare apples to apples when looking at which iPhone you should buy and really want to get the full picture. Before we continue with more of these crazy iPhone 13 changes and little hidden features and details here, I want to take a quick break and tell you guys a little bit about this video's sponsor, Luminar Neo. Luminar Neo is a creative photo editor coming to help you unleash your creative vision and also truly transform not just your photos, but the entire photo editing process. It's gonna help you eliminate boring and repetitive tasks, speed up your post-processing work, and help you achieve some really high-end, really cool effects on your photos really easily. For example, Luminar Neo will automatically detect and remove blemishes like dirt or those dreaded sensor spots, and also harness the power of AI technologies to automatically analyze your image and recognize things like depth and subjects to give you precise control over things like exposure and tone. There's also a built-in background replacement tool that looks super slick and a companion mobile app as well for your smartphone that makes it super easy to take the photos you take on your smartphone on the go into your Luminar catalog so you can easily edit it in Luminar Neo on your Mac or PC, then send that final finished product back to your phone for easy viewing on the go or for super simple sharing on social media. Also, Luminar Neo is made by Skylum Software, the same company behind apps like Aurora HDR and Luminar AI, which is personally one of my favorite photo editing apps of all time. I've been using it for a while and it sort of works like magic. It is absolutely mind-blowing to watch that app in action. It's incredible how much power it has and how much it can truly transform your photos. Luminar Neo is coming this winter to both macOS and Windows as an application and plugin. And also what's really cool here is that it's just a one-time payment, no subscription service here, and of course backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you guys want to check it out for yourself today, learn more, and take advantage of some early bird pricing, hit that link down below to learn more. And also while you're down there, check out a really cool bundle that gives you Luminar AI today and also Luminar Neo when it launches. 2 fantastic applications. Highly recommend you guys check it out for yourself today. So again, learn more and take advantage of that early bird pricing at the link right down below. Now, something I was really curious to see how Apple would handle during this presentation was the part about the smaller notch, because not only was the notch supposed to get physically smaller, but we also had heard rumors that Apple could introduce next generation Face ID technology that would be better for wearing masks and glasses and that weird combination of foggy masks and glasses. Basically, Face ID was supposed to get better with the 13, at least that was one of the rumors. And what Apple instead decided to do during that event was very briefly touch on the fact that yes, the notch is 20% smaller. But what they didn't talk about though is that although the notch is a little bit smaller, it also is a little bit taller than what we've seen before. Now again, this is probably not a big deal. It's still gonna give you a little bit more screen real estate than we've had before since basically the iPhone 10, but it is a little bit taller if you wanted to really look at the differences here between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 12. And also there was really no mention at all about Face ID technology. We have no word if this is an improved Face ID system, no word on improvements with masks and stuff like that. Apple didn't really mention it, and it was not listed really anywhere in the tech specs, so I would assume that the Face ID hardware in the iPhone 13 series is a little bit smaller thanks to the smaller notch, but basically is gonna work and function the exact same way as we got with the iPhone 12 and iPhones of previous years. Now, according to John Prosser, Apple employees were testing this new Face ID system supposedly, and there has been some speculation that maybe it could be improved to work better with masks via a software update, but as of right now, no substantial or significant changes are expected to the Face ID sort of functionality on the all-new iPhone 13 lineup. Next, let's shift gears for just a moment and talk about the Apple Watch Series 7, because this one is a wild and crazy roller coaster that just doesn't seem to stop with all the conspiracy theories and all the rumors. And I will say that whether or not we were intending to get this watch from the get-go, this is the watch we are now getting. The Series 7 that Apple showed off is the one we're getting later this fall, and there has been a lot of confusion on whether or not the new chip inside is really any different. Some have speculated that this is basically just a rebranded, repackaged version of the S6 chip we got in last year's Series 6. And according to Mac Rumors, although they can't really confirm specifics, they can say that this is going to be a Series 7 S7 chip instead of this new Apple Watch, and that it has been tweaked to give you better battery life with the larger, more advanced display, though again, a lot of details here are still missing. I don't know, the more I think about this, the more things just feel very off about this. The whole part of the presentation that talked about the Apple Watch seemed a little weird to me. To have so many credible leakers and analysts and journalists be wrong about this also seems weird. I just think that this wasn't the original Apple Watch we were supposed to get. I don't know about the specifics. I'm not sure that, I'm 100% right, but things just seem a little fishy to me. If you want to know my full thoughts and kind of hear me rant to Matt Gonzalez about this and kind of why I think that the Series 7 is a little weird this year, you can check out the full episode of the Apple Circle podcast we recorded this week about this whole subject and everything Apple announced, linked, of course, down below. But as of right now, to keep things simple in this video, the Series 7 that Apple showed us is the one we're going to get, and at least we know, according to Mac Rumors, it does have a slightly tweaked S7 chip inside. And finally, rounding out the list, a couple more iPhone 13 clarifications here we need to make. One is that according to Mac Rumors, the RAM in the iPhone 13 series is the exact same to the counterparts from last year on the iPhone 12, so 6 gigabytes of RAM on the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, and 4 gigs on the 13 and 13 mini. Also, dual eSIM support is here as well. And also, remember all those rumors about satellite connectivity, that your iPhone could communicate with special satellites? That doesn't seem to be the case this year. Apple didn't really mention this at all. It has yet to be found in spec sheets. I guess we can wait for teardowns to see if there's anything special in there, but as of right now, the rumors on that were, like many things, kind of seemingly false this year, and there is no special satellite connectivity on any of the iPhone 13 models. Maybe something coming next year to the iPhone 14. And luckily, while iPhone 13 prices did not change this year, there is a new record that needs to be given to the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which I think, in my recollection here, is the most expensive iPhone you can configure. Getting a 13 Pro Max with 1 terabyte of storage will run you $1,600 here in the US, which I think is the most expensive iPhone model you can buy brand new from Apple, and I think the most expensive iPhone we've ever seen from Apple, at least in the modern times here of no carrier subsidies. This is pretty crazy to see, and if you're buying this at full pop, enjoy your 1 terabyte of storage on your shiny iPhone, because that is a very expensive phone. And also worth noting here is that the $30 surcharge that we saw last year on the 13 and 13 mini is still here. So if you buy an unlocked 13 or 13 mini from Apple and you don't choose to go through a carrier and you buy it outright, you're paying $29 more. Why this is there, I'm really not sure. What we had heard last year is that carriers are offering some kind of instant discount if you go through them, but just worth noting that if you do pick up a 13 or 13 mini on another carrier, or you're gonna buy it unlocked, you're gonna pay $29 more. That is not the case though if you go with the 13 Pro or 13 Pro Max. And last but certainly not least, let's talk for a quick moment here about the iPad mini. Now I think I and all of us can agree that the iPad mini looks fantastic. It's so nice to see Apple give this the attention and the redesign that it deserves, and this new iPad mini just looks great. But a couple of quick clarifications here is that one, it has a slightly downclocked A15 processor, so it does have an A15 Bionic inside, which Apple conveniently did not talk about at all during the presentation, but it does have an A15, but it is slightly underclocked compared to the A15 in the iPhones. Those have a 3.2 gigahertz A15, while the iPad mini has a 2.9 gigahertz A15. Again, is this a change you're gonna notice? Probably not, unless you're doing really heavy tasks and video exports and stuff like that. Probably won't make a difference one way or the other, but just something you should know. And also, there is no millimeter wave 5G support on the iPad mini. So there is 5G compatibility on the iPad mini, but no blazing fast millimeter wave support on the latest, smallest iPad. So there you go. That's what Apple really didn't tell you at their latest event, or things they really conveniently tried to omit or really kind of glossed over. Hopefully I could give you some clarification and some details about all the different products, and specifically the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro as we kind of enter the release of these phones and kind of getting these into our hands in our pockets, kind of trying to help you guys make the best decision on which one you should buy. Of course, we will have full coverage here on the Apple Circle of every new Apple product Apple is set to release in the coming weeks. Of course, full coverage on the new iPhone 13 series, everything from the little 13 mini to the 13 Pro Max. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and stay tuned for a lot of cool coverage. And until then, I will thank you guys for watching as always. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching this video. video. Let me know your thoughts down below on this event. Are you excited for the iPhone 13, 13 Pro? Did you pick up one of these new iPhones, or are you waiting for something else? An iPad mini, thumbs up, thumbs down. Series 7, you think that was what we were supposed to get all along or not? Am I crazy? Do I need my tinfoil hat? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle, and I will see you all in the next one.